Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom on the programme tonight. As fighting in Ukraine continues with street battles being reported on the streets of Kyiv, the good news, more than 200 Indian students are now back in India, evacuated on an Air India flight after they were able to cross the frontier to Romania. These are videos of these students back in India just as the plane is about to land. There are still thousands of Indians stuck in the Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia has accused Ukraine of not being serious about talks and thereby prolonging the military conflict at a time when Ukraine says thousands of Russian soldiers have been killed while hundreds of prisoners of war are in their captivity. There are, of course, claims and counterclaims and a lot of disinformation all around. But let's just run those images that we saw of the first batch of Indian students in quite some time actually being able to return to India. 219 Indians back in our country after being evacuated on an Air India flight and after the government managed to get them out of Ukraine to Romania in this case, but many are going to be going across to Poland as well and to other areas. But the numbers are huge, remember, 18,000 odd Indian students in the Ukraine. 219 of them have come back today. Listen to what the Minister Piyush Goyal had to say.
जब से ये क्राइसिस शुरू हुआ, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी लगातार चिंता में थे कैसे हमारे सब भाई बहन, हमारे बच्चे, हमारे नागरिक सुरक्षित देश में जल्द से जल्द वापस आ सके। हमें निरंतर हमारे फॉरेन मिनिस्टर डॉक्टर जयशंकर संपर्क साधे हुए थे सभी देशों के साथ, रशिया, यूक्रेन और आसपास के सभी देश, सबके साथ उनकी बातचीत चल रही थी और पूरे रूट्स बनाए गए। सभी स्थानों पे हमारे एम्बेसी के ऑफिशियल्स पहुंचे, हेल्पलाइन एकदम एक्टिवली काम करी और संतोष की बात है कि सुरक्षित आज हमारे 200।
Well, let's just listen to those students coming out of that aircraft now.
We went in June last year. Sir, we were in extreme western part, so there was no such situation or worsening situation. But in Kyiv, there are and Odessa, nearby seas and nearby borders of Russia, there is situation is very worse. And students are living underground in bunkers area, and they are not. They are very scared of everything, and they need to be rescued soon. So I wish Indian government help them also as they helped us. Thank you.
Safe zone, so we weren't that much worried, but we were seeing some like airplane activities in our area also, like it was from Ukraine only, but like we were little worried and we weren't able to sleep at night. Sometimes we were able to I used to wake around 15 times in the night so that I can see and roommates can see like if everything is okay. And we were even told that if the hostel alarm goes off, you all need to just grab your documents and run away from the hostel so that it will be safe. And then like we were in the safest zone of the whole country, so we got rescued on the proper time by the Indian government, so it was very helpful for us.
Very suddenly. And
Well, in all of this, the President of Ukraine, the President has actually spoken to Prime Minister Modi. President Zelensky says that he's spoken to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, informed him of the course of Ukraine repulsing Russian aggression. More than 1 lakh invaders are on our territory. They insidiously fire on residential buildings, urged India to give political support in the United Nations Security Council. President Zelensky making that important point. Stop the aggressor together. And the Prime Minister, and in fact Russia, has now responded as well to India deciding not to vote in favor of a United Nations Security Council resolution against them, though India did say that they wanted peace first, but Russia believes that this is all part of India's balance. Highly appreciate India's independent and balanced position on the voting in the United Nations Security Council on the 25th of February. In the spirit of the special and privileged strategic partnership, Russia is committed to maintaining a close dialogue with India on the situation around Ukraine. So let's bring you a quick update of the big stories. And as usual for the last several days, there have been so many big developments. Well, the first Air India evacuation flight, as you saw, has landed back in India with 219 Indian nationals on board. This plane was bound for Mumbai. It's landed safely over there. Those students are going to get home soon. Now, India has abstained from a United States-sponsored UN Security Council resolution that hit out at Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. Explaining its decision, Delhi says that it has regretted the path of diplomacy being given up and that there must be a return to it. Street fighting has reportedly broken out with Russian forces in the capital Kyiv, which was rocked with intense gunfire and explosions overnight. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has pledged to not surrender and to continue fighting to defend his country. The Russian army has stated that it has taken control of the Ukrainian city of Melitopol and has targeted the country's military infrastructure. The US says that it will now sanction the Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Meta, the parent company of the social media giant Facebook, has barred Russian state media from running ads or monetizing on its platform. Meanwhile, internet connectivity in parts of the Ukraine has been badly affected, particularly in the south and eastern parts of the country. But what we can actually do at this stage is give you an idea of some of the areas where the fighting has been taking place, but also mark the areas from where Indian students can actually get out. Now, on this map, the areas which are marked in red are areas which Russia has controlled at least completely in 2014 when they took over Crimea in the south, and parts of Donbass backed by Russia. That also took place in 2014. But there has been fighting now in Crimea, in Donbass, in the Kyiv area, the Chernobyl area. Let's have that up full frame. And some other areas as well, Gostomel, Kharkiv to the east, Odessa to the south, Mykolaiv to the south as well. So those areas have seen a great deal of fighting. But in terms of the border crossings, the areas where Indian students are now getting out, those are all marked in yellow to the west of Ukraine, near Lviv, which is on the west of Ukraine, on the border with Romania as well. So Poland and Romania are the main exit routes through which Indian students can get out. But getting to these border areas is a problem. Once they are there, it becomes a great deal easier because the External Affairs Ministry has got officials positioned over there and they are helping facilitate their further travel to India after they cross the boundary into Poland or to Romania. Let's take a look now at some of the top stories, the top developments in terms of international reactions to this continuing crisis.
India is deeply disturbed by the recent turn of developments in Ukraine. We urge that all efforts are made for the immediate cessation of violence and hostility. It is a matter of regret that the path of diplomacy was given up. We must return to it. For all these reasons, India has chosen to abstain on this resolution.
Cette guerre durera, mais l'ensemble des crises qu'il y aura derrière auront des conséquences durables. Il nous faut donc nous y préparer avec beaucoup de détermination, avec aussi beaucoup de solidarité.
Кажу це максимально зараз відверто. Народ України вже заслужив і має право отримати членство в Європейському Союзі. Це і буде ключовим свідченням підтримки нашої країни.
Meanwhile, Russia has been stating, and they've said this again, that in fact it's Ukraine which is not allowing talks at this juncture, and thereby this entire conflict is being extended. Russia has also stated now that they have ruled out targeting residential areas.
Еще раз подчеркну, что огонь ведется только по объектам военной инфраструктуры Вооруженных сил Украины, исключая нанесение ущерба жилой и социальной инфраструктуре. Всего российскими вооруженными силами поражен 821 объект военной инфраструктуры Украины. Среди них 14 военных аэродромов, 19 пунктов управления и узлов связи,
Well, Jyoti Hire joins us now live from Kyiv. She's been reporting over there over the last several days. Thanks very much. Any signs of the street fighting which has been reported in Kyiv?
So this is what I can tell you about the street fighting. Just outside of, just slightly onto the suburbs of Kyiv, my apologies, Kyiv, there was fighting. There has been fighting since last night. This is where we were hearing a lot of the gunfire from throughout the night, and then early this morning. And it's in these streets where we're seeing this street fighting. And right now, what's happening is that armed civilians are also fighting alongside military officers. I've seen armed civilians and military officers here more in the central area, patrolling the streets together. But what's happening there towards the west is that there is actually exchange of gunfire happening.
And is there also a complete, dawn to dusk curfew in place over the next couple of days? That means anybody out on the street will be considered a Russian saboteur.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, basically, that's exactly right. So right now the streets are actually clear. I'm here. There's two other people here that probably shouldn't be here. But yeah, the streets are completely clear now. A lot of the people that I spoke to today, they said they were intending on being home before 5 o'clock. So yeah, that's what's in place right now.
All right. Well, just look after yourself and be careful. We've got this report of Jyoti Hire's from earlier on in the day near a building which had been targeted by Russian forces. Let's take a look.
So this morning, early on Saturday, a missile hit central Kyiv, more specifically a residential building in central Kyiv, and that's what you can see the rubble behind me. I'm gonna just take you in a little bit closer. So let's just take a view of the building itself. You can see here the damage, and then up there to the apartments, we can see the firefighters are up there right now. But heavy damage right here. It looks like to about, I'd say, 7 or 8 apartments there, but there's damage also to the apartments above, below. We can see, curtains, we can see a wall. This is life. We can see life and just the destruction of life. So this is what it looks on the ground. Just, there's just rubble everywhere. And so we can see at the bottom here, there's also businesses that have been damaged, and then on top the residential complex. So let's just go in a little bit closer. Whoa. So I don't know if I should be getting a little bit closer. Just a few minutes ago, something just fell from the top. Also, they've told me sort of to stay back from here as they go inside. So I'm just gonna take you in just really quickly so you can just sort of see from this perspective. Like, this is what we see on the ground. Everyday life things, a child's ball here on the ground. And then from here we can see the strike where it hit and the damage it's caused there. So at this point, what we're seeing here is there's military guarding the area, and we've got fire trucks, ambulances right now, and also civilians that have armed themselves. This is the first I'm seeing of it here right now in central Kyiv. So this is the scene on the ground right now. I am seeing more military presence in the area, as we've received reports that Kyiv could see more of this tonight. I'm Jyoti here in Kyiv for NDTV.
Well, a couple of quick reactions coming in from Ukraine at this stage, with Dmytro Kuleba, their foreign minister, saying that Russian propaganda has gone off the rails, and speculation that Ukraine might be preparing to drop a dirty bomb on Russian territory. This is a sick fake. Ukraine doesn't have nuclear weapons, doesn't conduct any work to create or acquire them. We are a responsible member of the NPT, the the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Well, joining us now, we're joined by the Ukrainian MP, the head of the Golos Party, Rudik. We're also joined by Fred Weir, the Moscow correspondent for a Boston-based daily. We're joined by Amit Lat, the CEO of the Sharda Group and the Vice President of the Indo-Polish Chamber. And we'll be joined in a little while by the father of a student who really is desperately trying to get out of the Ukraine at this stage. Rudik, Russia says at this stage that it is the Ukraine which is delaying the peace process. You aren't coming to the table. Is that correct?
Well, you have seen the report from Kyiv right now, where they continuously bombing us and destroying peaceful buildings and attacking civilians.
Right.
So how is the Ukraine stopping the peaceful process here? We are not gonna negotiate with the aggressor, and we are not gonna come to Russia's demands. We are going to fight for our country, and the only demand that we have is get the hell out of here. So Russia started this war, and for the peace to be, they only need to take back their troops. This is the only thing that needs to happen. And we are not going to negotiate with them or like go into peaceful talks with them or anything. We are going to fight for the country, and that's it.
And so, I'm trying to understand the Russian saboteurs that Ukraine has spoken about being on the streets of Kyiv. Could you tell us a little bit about the threat they represent? Because how active is the street fighting in Kyiv just now?
So let me explain you something. So our army is taking care of most of Russian forces that are coming to Kyiv and trying to attack our cities. However, there are smaller groups that are trying to get in here and there. And this is where the resistance, which I am a part of, is taking part. And this is where we are taking care of these smaller groups. So there is no active street fights, like as you imagine is in riots or anything. However, people are alarmed, people are weaponized, and they are expecting that there could be a threat on the street. That's why the streets are closed right now from 5 p.m. till like 8 a.m. Right for this. And we are ready that there will be Air Force attacks at night like it was before. And we are ready that there will be more Russian troops coming in tomorrow morning.
Right. Fred, is there a sense that Russia has not really achieved very much in the last 3 days? The Ukrainians have been defending their territory very strongly. And therefore, where does that leave this invasion?
You know, I can't really speak to that because, when you cover these wars, and there have been quite a lot of them in the 21st century, the first days are always murky, what they call the fog of war. You got claims and counterclaims. I try to monitor what the military spokespeople on both sides are saying, and you've got two completely different stories. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go by what the Russian Defense Ministry is saying, they are moving rapidly, cutting up the Ukrainian army. They're bypassing most cities except for Kyiv. They're not trying to invest Kharkiv or Kherson, but they're surrounding them. They, I guess, are aiming for a regime change, and that's why they're targeting Kyiv. But who is beating who, how many are being killed or planes shot down and so on, you know from experience that those numbers are seldom right.
Sure. Yeah, no, and it's impossible to independently verify that. I take that point completely. But Fred, where is Russia right now with this peace process? Because, or apparent peace process? Because yesterday there were suggestions that there should be talks between Russian officials and Ukrainian officials in Belarus. Today, the Russian government is saying that it's the Ukrainians who are delaying this process. Russia wants to hold these peace talks to what end? Regime change, or what is the agenda of these talks?
You know, I don't know what Russia actually wants. I'm pretty sure they want regime change, but they might, if President Zelensky was willing to give on major points. They might talk to him, and they might do a deal with him.
Right.
As you just heard from the parliamentarian, aren't in any mood to do that. So I think we will have to wait. I mean, this is really
we just have to wait. Sure, I take that. We'll have to wait and see
how the situation goes.
Yeah, how this right. Kira, are you among the militia which has armed itself? Have you armed yourself? Are you ready to fight yourself?
Yes, I have armed myself, and the other members of the resistance crew that we have formed are also armed. And there is around 20,000 additional people in Kyiv who has armed themselves and who are ready to fight. We are not going to forfeit a single inch of Ukrainian soil, and we are not going to step back, because it's our land, and Russians came in here to destroy us. Russian President Putin said that he denies Ukraine the right to live and exist. And that's why we are going to stand up for this.
And Kira, you know, there would be a lot of parents over there, among those, a lot of mothers with very young children who've decided that they have to protect their homeland, the Ukraine, taking up arms. Could you describe to us this militia and you know, who forms it? It's just ordinary people.
Yes, these are ordinary people who are grouping into the units and to protect themselves, the ones they love, and just to stand up for the guys who are coming, obviously, to kill us. Well, the small children and mothers with small children have been evacuated by this point. So it's easier right now in Kyiv because there are only almost only people who are ready to fight and who are going to be participating in active fighting.
Have you trained at all in weaponry before, or is this the first time that you are handling an assault rifle? Because there's a photo of yours on the internet with a gun. We'll just try to pull that up, but have you trained for it? Or I mean, I understand the passion, but there we have the picture on the screen. Tell us a little bit about how you're ready to fight.
So I work as a member of parliament and leader of the political party. I have never held a gun in my life.
Yeah, go ahead.
And but once the war with Russia started, I realized that I have to stand up for my country, and there is no way that I can be unarmed. So I got my rifle from the government, from the police, and now I'm training to fight it. And it still sounds surreal for me, and the trainings are still surreal, same as for many of my friends and colleagues. But when the war comes to your home, this is the thing that you have to do. Stand up for what you love, stand up for what you care for, stand up for your country and for your city.
Yeah. Amit Lat, the CEO of the Sharda Group and Vice President of the Indo-Polish Chamber, what are your concerns at this juncture about the process of evacuation of Indian nationals from Ukraine? Do you believe that while we welcome our students and others back, that this is something that should have been done earlier along the lines of what other countries have done?
It's a very unfortunate situation at the moment. Our students were, of course, pre-intimated and given an information that if they would like to return back to the homeland, they should do so. Nobody expected that, Russia would wage a war on Ukraine. And at this stage, of course, the evacuation process is on. Our officials from the Indian Embassy are doing a great job. There are officers from the MEA who have landed in Poland, Hungary, Romania, and in Slovakia to take care of the entire process and have to have a smooth, safe journey back home for those
students
studying in Ukraine at the moment. What I would like to mention here is, as we know this evacuation process is on, what challenges have been faced at the moment on the Ukrainian border is as follows. There are thousands of students at the Polish-Ukrainian border, and we were told that the Ukrainian border guards are not allowing our Indian students to pass into Poland. Though Poland has shown a great effort of friendship for India, and they have mentioned very clearly that we would welcome every single Indian student, whether they have even expired passport. We would get them into Poland on the humanitarian ground and support them in whatever capacity they can. The only challenge, as I mentioned, is we are facing on the Ukrainian side at the moment on the border.
All right, but there are Government of India officials there on the Ukrainian side as well trying to resolve this, right? Because they have a camp office in Lviv.
Absolutely, yes. There are government officials. They had a discussion with the border guards, but it seems that nothing is working so well as we expect.
And so how many students are still stuck there, unable to cross over from Ukraine to Poland?
As per my knowledge, last night when I was talking to students and this morning when we had a couple of communications with them, it seems that number of students who have actually gathered are now in thousands, which are at the Polish-Ukrainian border.
All right, so getting them out is proving to be a huge challenge. That's something we'll track very closely. Anil Kaushik joins us as well. He's the father of Ankur Sharma. Anil ji, आपके बेटे कहाँ हैं इस वक्त और उन्होंने आपको क्या कहा, कब बाहर निकल पाएंगे?
थैंक यू। सबसे पहले तो मैं एनडीटीवी का थैंक्स करता हूं जिसने हम लोगों की समस्या को हमारे एमएससी के थ्रू हमारे बच्चों को वहां से निकालने की कोशिश की। हमारा बच्चा आज यूक्रेन से इसमें रोमानिया बॉर्डर से क्रॉस करके और इंडिया के एमएससी में अपना इमिग्रेशन करके पोर्ट पे पहुंच चुका है एयरपोर्ट में।
तो उनका तो आपका बेटा का फ्लाइट कब है? कल?
हाँ, हमारे बेटे से अभी बात हुई थी, उसका जो फ्लाइट है आज रात में या कल हो सकता है।
ओके,
ही सेफली।
कंग्रेचुलेशंस, दिस इज वेरी गुड न्यूज अनिल जी। पर एक चीज बताइए, किस जगह में आपका बेटा पढ़ रहा था?
इवानो में हमारा बच्चा 4th ईयर में मेडिकल कर रहा था और ये कल वहां से अपने ओन रिस्क पे टैक्सी करके और ये आज पोर्ट पे पहुंच के एयर जहां से जहाज इनको मिलना है वहां पर पहुंच गए हैं। अभी रिसेप्शन से हमारी बात हुई, ये कहते हैं आज या कल हमसे इंडिया का एयर मिल जाएगा और हम मोस्ट प्रोबेबली 2 or 3 days में इंडिया में पहुंच जाएंगे।
All right, well, Anil Kaushik ji, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations, you must be relieved that your son is now safe. Thank you, Anil.
I'm very very thankful to for NDTV जिसने हमारे बच्चे को यहाँ तक पहुँचाने में बड़ी मदद की। और
जो भी मुश्किल है हम ये हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं और ये बहुत खुशी की बात है कि आपका बेटा अब इंडिया वापस लौट रहा है, वो बॉर्डर पार कर चुका है। So it's a much better situation. Thanks, sir, very much for being with us.
Thanks. Lot of thanks.
Not at all. In fact, it's the government which is doing all the work. We're just reporting what's happening. We'll take a short break. There's a lot more coming up right here on this huge international story. Stay tuned. Now, India has abstained from a United States-sponsored UN Security Council resolution that hit out at Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. Explaining its decision, Delhi says that it has regretted the path of diplomacy being given up and that there must be a return to it. Street fighting has reportedly broken out with Russian forces in the capital Kyiv, which was rocked with intense gunfire and explosions overnight. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has pledged to not surrender and to continue fighting to defend his country. The Russian army has stated that it has taken control of the Ukrainian city of Melitopol and has targeted the country's military infrastructure. The US says that it will now sanction the Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Meta, the parent company of the social media giant Facebook, has barred Russian state media from running ads or monetizing on its platform. Meanwhile, internet connectivity in parts of the Ukraine has been badly affected, particularly in the south and eastern parts of the country. But what we can actually do at this stage is give you an idea of some of the areas where the fighting has been taking place, but also mark the areas from where Indian students can actually get out. Now, on this map, the areas which are marked in red are areas which Russia has controlled at least completely in 2014 when they took over Crimea in the south, and parts of Donbass backed by Russia. That also took place in 2014. But there has been fighting now in Crimea, in Donbass, in the Kyiv area, the Chernobyl area. Let's have that up full frame. And some other areas as well, Gostomet, Kharkiv to the east, Odessa to the south, Mykolaiv to the south as well. So those areas have seen a great deal of fighting. But in terms of the border crossings, the areas where Indian students are now getting out, those are all marked in yellow to the west of Ukraine, near Lviv, which is on the west of Ukraine, on the border with Romania as well. So Poland and Romania are the main exit routes through which Indian students can get out. But getting to these border areas is a problem. Once they are there, it becomes a great deal easier because the External Affairs Ministry has got officials positioned over there, and they are helping facilitate their further travel to India after they cross the boundary into Poland or to Romania. Let's take a look now at some of the top stories, the top developments in terms of international reactions to this continuing crisis.
India is deeply disturbed by the recent turn of developments in Ukraine. We urge that all efforts are made for the immediate cessation of violence and hostility. It is a matter of regret that the path of diplomacy was given up. We must return to it. For all these reasons, India has chosen to abstain on this resolution.
Cette guerre durera, mais l'ensemble des crises qu'il y aura derrière auront des conséquences durables. Il nous faut donc nous y préparer avec beaucoup de détermination, avec aussi beaucoup de solidarité.
Кажу це максимально зараз відверто. Народ України вже заслужив і має право отримати членство в Європейському Союзі. Це і буде ключовим свідченням підтримки нашої країни.
Meanwhile, Russia has been stating, and they've said this again, that in fact it's Ukraine which is not allowing talks at this juncture, and thereby this entire conflict is being extended. Russia has also stated now that they have ruled out targeting residential areas.
Еще раз подчеркну, что огонь ведется только по объектам военной инфраструктуры Вооруженных сил Украины, исключая нанесение ущерба жилой и социальной инфраструктуре. Всего российскими вооруженными силами поражен 821 объект военной инфраструктуры Украины. Среди них 14 военных аэродромов, 19 пунктов управления и узлов связи.
Well, joining us now, Bhanu Sani. He's been living in Ukraine for 35 years. We are also joined by Olena Tregub. She's a former director of the Ministry of Economy in Ukraine. Olena, let me come to you first. You know, Russia now says that Ukraine is trying to prolong the conflict by refusing talks. What is the situation with this Russian offer of talks?
Well, you know, the situation is very simple. Currently, Ukraine is protecting not only its own freedom and democracy, but it's protecting also democracy and peace in the world in general. And Ukraine, you know, heroically defended itself for the past 48 hours. Russian forces suffered biggest loss within 48 hours since 1945. And, you know, Russia, if Russia wants really to negotiate, to give us security guarantees, our president said he is ready for this. We are ready for this. We don't want our civilians killed. Russia is now, as your reporter correctly pointed out, we have civilian casualties up to 200 people. And, you know, Russia is almost openly threatening to come to Kyiv and kill our president, democratically elected president. And I just call for, you know, Indian people to support Ukraine, because you are the biggest democracy in the world. And we are the biggest democracy in Europe. And this is what we have in common. We have to defend democracy and our right to live a free life and make our own choices.
Could you give us an idea of what's happening in Kyiv right now? Because we've not seen Russian tanks roll into Kyiv. That's not happened. Now that's an example perhaps of Ukraine's defense of your capital city. But how active is the fighting? Because again, it's difficult to understand.
Yes, a lot of my family, my colleagues, they are now in Kyiv. What is happening is that there were very heavy street fights in Kyiv this night. Right now it's quiet. Russian is using our airspace. They are dropping, saboteurs, their special operation forces on Kyiv from air. They are doing it even though our air defense is still active, and Ukraine was able to shut down, for example, 2 Russian military planes. And they just try right now to exhaust us, to terrify us, but we already consider what happened in the 48 hours, the Ukrainian victory, but we need support from the world, because Putin is now very angry that he did not achieve what he wanted, and he may really right now increase casualties among civilians. He may start bombing our cities. He may want just to terrify completely our population.
Olena, stay safe, please. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much indeed. We're joined by Sviatoslav Yurash, the Ukraine MP and head of the Parliamentary Friendship Group with India. Thanks very much, Mr. Yurash, for being with us. Are you still carrying that weapon of yours because you intend to fight till the very end if it boils down to it?
Well, there's plenty of fighting happened, and as I told you yesterday, I'm going now to the points outside of Kyiv, basically, where various members of parliamentary team of mine are defending, and basically I'm starting with the point to the west of Kyiv and try to verify and check, and I'm bringing some volunteers with me who I got to basically receive the means in which they can try and help defend our country, as well as bringing different supplies. And again,
so, Mr. Yurash, do you have any military training at all? I know you've armed yourself and you've armed others, but are you trained in this?
2 things there. First, when you are fighting for your survival, you learn quickly. Second, when you are basically looking at the situation that we have right now, every single person counts, and we need to try and arm everybody who wants to help us defend our country. And the point here is that to win this fight, we need to make everybody available to try and actually succeed. Again, we are fighting against one of the biggest armies in the world. So in this fight, there is no shortage of demands and requests and possibilities to try and help in that battle.
Now, Mr. Yurash, what about the prospect of peace? Because what Russia has been saying in the last little while is that, in fact, it's Ukraine which is not responding to this call for peace. They want peace talks in Belarus.
Our president started in response of Mr. Putin's speech not even a week ago, when he denounced our state's existence and our nation's existence. He started with the response with diplomatic overtures that Ukraine is more than willing to try and approach and take and build up on. The problem here is that Russia is attacking everything. There is no lone fighting that you're describing. In Kyiv, we are receiving cruise missiles that essentially are attacking military targets and civilian targets. Maybe you've seen the footage of the multi-story building which was hit.
Yes, we've been carrying that.
Many casualties, yes. And there are fighting happening all over the country. There's fighting in the south of the country, very active one. They are landing their troops all over Kyiv to try and encircle the city. They basically, because of the Chernobyl area, they are moving into the north of the city. They are trying partially blocking the east. And
so
they are
do you
trying
see
to control the
Russian
west.
boots on the ground in Kyiv in, say, 24 hours unless you can resist them? I mean, is this the last stand for Kyiv?
Kyiv is by no means at the point of a last stand. Again, everybody is arming, everybody is getting ready, everybody is doing what I'm doing right now, as millions of people that live in Kyiv are trying to find their place in defense of our city, of our capital city. The president is here, prime minister is here, every single leader of our country is here, and we shall put together everything we have to defend our capital.
Mr. Yurash, one final question. How long do you believe that you can sustain this military defense? Because obviously their forces are much larger, and you are putting up an incredible defense of your city, not just Kyiv but other areas as well. From what we are seeing videos, there are serious Russian losses on the ground. That seems clear. But this is the worry for Ukraine, isn't it? That you will not be able to indefinitely sustain this. Where is this headed now? Is this going to end up being a guerrilla sort of insurgency, or call it what you want, for an overt period of time?
Well, the reality is we need to bring everything, because we are fighting for our state's very existence. It's not a question of limited resources. It's a question of us continuing as independent state, as independent nations. Our grandfathers, our great-grandfathers fought in the Second World War and the First World War just for this purpose. They won us our freedom. Our job now is to protect that freedom. And again, no price is too big, no cost is too much.
One final question, Mr. Yurash. You speak so passionately for your country, and it is inspiring, no doubt, for people around the world who believe in what Ukraine has to say at this juncture. My final question is this. Ukraine has claimed thousands of Russian casualties. They've said that thousands of Russian soldiers have died. Where are the remains, the mortal remains of these soldiers? Are they being handed over to the Red Cross? How is that happening?
Actually, we called, there's famous video going around of Ukrainian Ministry of Defense calling Russian Ministry of Defense and saying, how can we give you the dead that we have? How can we pass you them? Capacity of the dead that we have. We also have hundreds of POWs, Russian POWs, who essentially are calling their mothers, who ask why are they in Ukraine or why are they getting captured in Ukraine. We have those POWs and we are giving them medical help, and we are trying to showcase that Ukraine here is a country that is determined to continue on the humanitarian path of democracy and respect for all. The problem here is, again, we are invaded and we are in the life or death struggle here. And we shall do everything to try and build our freedom.
All right, Sviatoslav, Yurash, thank you very much for being with us, and please do stay safe, all of you over there. I just wanted to go across at this stage to Bhanu Sani. He's been living in Ukraine for 35 years. Mr. Sani, it's a terrible situation. Can you tell us how you are managing with your family and your friends?
First of all, thanks for having me over and giving the voice to an Indian, my perspective. I flew into Delhi on Wednesday by probably the last possible flight. We weren't expecting this kind of an military operation by Russia. Vladimir Putin's been lying all through this while, talking about some special military operation in Donbass. What we are seeing unfolding is a massive attack from all sides. He's not been mincing his words, and he's being, like with Trump, you had to do a fact check. Yesterday, I was also talking to some Indian media, and one of the ambassadors repeated a phrase used by Putin. Putin called, he wants to denazify, he wants to do the denazification of Ukraine. That is such an absurd statement because the president of Ukraine happens to be Jewish. Let's begin with one. Putin's not accepted the existence of Ukraine as an independent state. So, when you add all the blocks together, you understand that there is too much of gaslighting.
Right.
There is too much of incoherence, and there's too much of, you can't believe what's coming out of Kremlin.
Right. And so where do you see this actually headed? Because at one level, Mr. Sani, since you're speaking so forthrightly, it just seems bizarre, because at one level, Russia has clearly not achieved what it needs to achieve or what it hoped to achieve so far militarily. They are sustaining losses on the ground. We haven't seen Russian soldiers in large numbers in city centers, certainly not in Kyiv. And yet the Russians have perhaps not targeted civilian areas massively. So is the worry that is what might actually be coming next if the Ukraine doesn't come to the negotiating table?
For negotiations to happen, there has to be a clarity about what the negotiation is going to be about. And it has to be consistent with what you offer and what you deliver and what you speak. That's one. What will be, what is in future? I think no one has an idea, because what's happening right now was is beyond in anyone's imagination that this could happen in the 21st century in Europe, when you would probably be respecting your neighbor and be involved in improving your own country, getting health, medicine, education, etc. It's diverting focus from the problems that Russia has.
Yep.
And thumping your chest, talking about the great Russian empire, if you want to say. It's sad because Ukraine is a democracy. Russia is not. It's a totalitarian regime.
Yeah.
All their opposition leaders are in the prison.
Yeah.
Boris Nemtsov was very conveniently shot dead near the Red Square a few years ago.
Right.
Navalny is in the jail.
Yeah.
He was poisoned by Novichok, which is a chemical weapon.
Right.
The journalists, there's no free media in Russia. You have that. Not you. We have that in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It is a new democracy, but it is a democracy. We've had 5 changes of governments, and it's been democratically elected. So when Putin says something like I don't know exactly what words he says because
sure,
it just comes out of his mind. Is Zelensky had 73%, if I'm not mistaken, this was a landslide victory. And
all right, Mr. Seni, just 1 second. I'll come back to you in a bit. I want to go back to Olena Tregub at this juncture. Olena, in your opinion, what is the way forward from here? There is a military invasion of your country which is taking place. You are resisting that. But do you see this actually going on for an extended period of time?
Yes, the spirit of Ukrainians is very high. We are not going to give up, our country to Putin. And if Putin would want to have a European Afghanistan, yes, he may have situation like this. Therefore, our conditions are, and our president said, our negotiations should not be in Minsk. Excuse me, but Belarus is the other party of this war. Currently, 3 countries are at war. Belarus and Russia attacked us together. How can we have negotiation on the territory of country that attacked us? Our negotiation can be, for example, in Ankara, in Turkey, on a neutral territory. And we will negotiate, to what Russia can offer to give us real guarantees, because as you know, Ukraine had Budapest Memorandum. We gave up the 3rd largest nuclear arsenal that we had after USSR in exchange for security guarantees.
Yes.
And right now we are being attacked. So next time we need much more serious guarantees than Budapest Memorandum.
Right. Bhanusari, let's just talk about your immediate situation. Is it increasingly looking untenable in terms of basics? Food, water, electricity, fuel?
Yes, I spoke to my staff. Staff has become like family, and like friends in Ukraine are also like family. And I was speaking to her, where she is right now, my staff. There is no electricity. Because the Russian army is encircling Kyiv, the bridges which lead up to Kyiv around the Dnipro rivers have been bombed by the Ukrainian army to keep Kyiv safe. So it is a very precarious situation, and we know what Russia did in Crimea by blocking the airwaves, stopping the media, getting their boots on the ground.
Right.
So what is in store, I think it's anybody's guess, but what I do know is the Ukrainians are not going to give up easily. Not the Ukrainian army, which is a lot stronger than it was 2014, and not the Ukrainian people, because we've had 2 revolutions. We'll make sure that we keep our sovereignty and our ideals. So being bullied by a neighbor and at gunpoint is not an option which Ukrainians are going to take.
Mr. Saini, I'm just curious to know, you've been in the Ukraine for 35 years, right? That's your home. Are you still an Indian citizen or?
Yes, I'm an Indian citizen. I have permanent residency in Ukraine.
And in the Ukraine, you consider it your home, your family, your friends, and it's that the cause of Ukraine right now you believe is your cause.
I do feel so, yes. It's my second home.
Right. And tell us a little bit about that. Just the situation that you're in, where your closest friends, people you employ, people you worked with, are in the middle of this utterly bizarre situation. Who would have thought that something like this could have happened? Tell us about that. The predicament that you find yourself in.
It's very surreal. It really is, because in this time in Europe, you would never expect this kind of a thing happening. It's very medieval. What situation people are in, you can imagine if people are in bunkers and not in their homes. They're sleeping in the metro stations because there are air sirens happening all the time.
Right.
You have something else also, which I probably missed out.
You more or less, the surreal times that you find yourself in. I get what you're trying to say. Olena Trego, one final question to you. How are you personally managing, or how are your loved ones personally managing in a situation like this?
To flee Kyiv, flee Ukraine. This is because there was information released. For example, I am a former government official, and I'm also anti-corruption activist active in Ukraine. And there was this information that Ukrainians like me were put on a Russian kill list. If Putin would occupy, he would just target killings of people like us. For example, it's very scary. I have little children, and but I will be fighting for Ukraine till my death. I'm very determined.
Have you also, like so many Ukrainians, picked up a weapon to protect yourself and to attack?
Yes, we are all right now trying to have a weapon for protection, for defense. We have deficit of weapons right now. So if India can ship us some defensive weapons, we would appreciate this if you make such a diplomatic breakthrough.
A final question to you, Olena. You're a mother of how many children?
2 children.
You're the mom of 2 children. And can I ask how old they are?
They are little. They are 7 and 12.
You're the mother of a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old. You have armed yourself and you're willing to fight for your country.
Yes, and we have, majority of Ukrainians right now have such spirit, and I'm actually the one who basically left Ukraine, but many of my friends with little children are right now in the basement. Some children were born in the basement this night and last night. Right. People are enduring incredible hardship just because how much they love their country.
And where are you coming to us from? Where are you right now? Your location? Which city are you?
Well, I am in a European country right now.
In a European country right now. All right, Olga and Mr. Sani, thank you both very much for joining us and sharing your perspective of what is happening at this juncture.